Hello, my friends. I'm here back to you again, and just to give you some opinions about the present economical situation. I think, no matter doubt, that the reason of this video is that I think that the 2020 crisis, the present economical crisis that gotten worse after the coronavirus, this is one excuse of our permanent economic crisis, will be bigger will be bigger than the one that we had in 2008, and it will be similar to the Great Depression of 1929-1931. I think that I can look to this economical crisis as a tsunami that's hit the virus itself in the social distancing, and then what about the consequences in terms of the wreckage when you look at it. And I think you have to think that as incomes and balance sheets. You know, it was a tremendous income hit, and then the balance sheets are losses, and what and who has was that what savings, and then who will you know be dealing with that holes to understand and to realize that there are some holes that technical people call gaps. These holes in income and the holes in the balance sheets of companies and among the international institutions, it's easy to realize that there will have to be an increasing production of money and credit. But who will be producing this money and this credit? Okay, the money and credit comes from different ways. We have US dollars, money and credit. They're in Europe, euro dollar, money and credit. And so when you look to the world, you're seeing the situation that the same has existed really in the 1945 period. And that we are seeing the production of a lot of debt, a lot of borrowing debt from people by the governments. We are seeing moreover, zero interest rates, and not the traditional kind of monetary policy, but the producing of a lot of money and credit, from the Banca Italia or the Federal Reserve, just to say, to buy treasury's debt. And the treasury is getting that money to mostly Americans in some imperfect but remarkably large way, and Europeans are doing the same in their way. That means European banks, are smaller ones because the world lives with about 70% dollars and only a small percent of euro, and they will produce throughout the same way. There aren't many banks around the world. So the rest of the world is going to have gaps, to have holes that won't be filled. So you think about that and you say that the way you're printing or borrowing money will leave us with a lot of debt and monetization. That's something interesting to talk about. We need to talk about this question. Who will pay these bills and how will that be shared? Would be something to need to talk about, but that you will get the money and Europeans will get their version of that money in the new world that is about to come. This new world will be much more similar to the 1931 world, and a lot of people around this world will not be able to get this money in credit. So, what we have to understand is that at the moment, we currently have a lot of debt on our hands. Just to talk about the American world, in 2020, this amount of debt will figure out around $25.3 million. That's about 107% of the GDP. Now, in Italy is much more higher. So we need to ask ourselves, with all of this debt in our hands and with all of this free printing of money, who at the end of the day will pay the bill? And how will these all turn out? And before you can answer these questions, now you need to know how the economy works in the key patterns that we can see through, and we have seen yet throughout history. I can take only a minute, and I will just paint a mental template for you that takes us over the last 1,000 years. The things that have happened over and over again is that there is only one pattern I want you to convey with me. In this mental mapping, there are four things that are the basic driving forces of our economy and of our lifestyle and, of course, wealth. The first and the most powerful is productivity, which comes from people that are inventing, learning, and doing things just the way you are doing now if you are an entrepreneur. It grows slowly, 1 to mostly 3% per year. It grows slowly, the productivity, and it's not volatile because knowledge is involved over and over, and so it grows and raises our living standards over periods of time. Then there's the point two. We have to manage this wealthy productivity with debt. And you have the short-term debt cycle that, it's made by recessions and economical expansion and booms and recessions again. So that is the economical cycle that all students of the first year know. But this cycle turns out to 8 to 10 years. Third thing is the long-term debt cycle, that this long-term debt cycle and can go about 50 to 75 years of lasting period. And when you begin to think about those kind of periods, you will see that you can find yourself in a brave new world or in a brave new type of money that must be or must be not credit-like. I mean, in 1945, a period that persons like me only studied throughout the books, okay, a new world came. Bretton Woods monetary system that created a new monetary system, new money. So this process just wiped out pretty much the old money, and they largely disposed of it. And they began a new, okay, and that's the new world order, which was the American world order, and last but not least, the European way of life. All around the world, over than 70% of business is run out, or business and credits are run out over the dollar. And the last 30% is run out over the euro or the yuan, but mostly euro. This takes me to the fourth point, that is the influence of politics. What is politics? Politics is about how people deal with each other. Now, you have two kinds of politics, internal one and external politics. The internal politics is how you deal with the wealth. How do you deal with the values gap? Do you have a common mission? Do we Italians have a common dream that we can agree on it? And are we pursuing it together? My answer is absolutely not, because we are not genetically predisposed to do it. Or do you fight over wealth and so when you look at history of our revolutions that we haven't had anyone in the various way? Could be in Italy a new revolution? I don't think. So, what about will things that will take place after the coronavirus crisis will come to an end? In my opinion, a new Great Depression. And just to have a conclusion, I want to help you with some advice, by the economical point of view, you will find basically some good indicators that will sign what I'm telling you now. And, we come from a strong bullish market that ran all over the past 50 years. And now we have to get a better look to the long-term debt cycle on average trends for the next 30 years. The bad news is that we have strong indicators that might be about to change. But the question is, what market condition can we expect for the future? Now we are in a similar situation to that of 1930 or even to 1945. Because most of all, the ingredients are exactly the same, with debt in our hands, low interest rates, the vast printing of money, etc., etc. But the bad news is that this period wasn't exactly the most fun or profitable period to be in for investors. As you know, we had the Great Depression, we had the 2008 crisis, Lehman Brothers and whatsoever, but you now have your money, your savings in your hand. What can you do? The worst thing that one can do is to think that there will be a time when markets will go over for us. What an investor needs to know, well, is that he has to figure out his portfolio in a really diversified and balanced way. I can define my advice for your portfolio, a all-weather portfolio, the portfolio that can face off every weather condition by an economical and financial point of view. This portfolio is supposed to be able to weather any economic season, as you know, and still do well. It accounts for 30% in stocks, direct marketing, or ATFs, okay? You can make sure you diversified your net worth through countries around the globe. Then you can add 40% in long-term bonds and finally 5% in some medium-term bonds. After this, also you have got 25% in gold and diamonds, which is, I say, and I'm not alone in saying that if you don't own diamonds, you know neither history nor economics. And lastly, this 25% is to finish off this diversified, balanced portfolio, at least according to me. And this portfolio should be able to weather through this economic storm. Good luck to everyone.